Hello, Captain VFC here with another build video, this time the Airfix Supermarine Spitfire F.Mk.22. But before you panic and you go away and you say, oh, it's just a Spitfire, I don't care, well, consider it this way. The Mark 22, which is basically the Mark 21 but with a bubble canopy and some other minor differences, is not your typical Spitfire. Imagine a school friend that you're really close with in your teenage years. You grew up kind of together, used to hang around in the playground, and they were a bit reckless, they were a bit fun, they were just the wilder side of your friendship group. And then, for whatever reason, you go to college, you go to university, you go to whatever happens in your life, you drift apart and you don't see each other for maybe 10 years. And then, for whatever reason, you somehow reconnect with them and you meet them in a pub, and you can kind of tell who they were. They're the same personality, they have the same basic voice, the same basic mannerisms, but they're no longer that reckless person setting fire to a wheelie bin. They're in a suit or a cardigan. They have a family, they have a child, they're a parent now, they're sensible. This is that Spitfire. This is a business Spitfire. This is a nostalgia lets you know that it's a Spitfire, even if your eyes don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's got different wings, different fuselage, a different engine, and there's pretty much nothing Spitfire about it other than the fact that it is obviously a Spitfire. Which is all a very long way of just saying, hi, I'm Captain VFC. Thank you for watching my video. Like, subscribe, and goodbye. No, seriously, hello. This kit has kind of got me all shook up a little bit because I was wrong. I did an unboxing video of this, came out a couple of weeks ago. Check it out if you haven't already, and you'll hear a very dubious tone to my voice. I was very uncertain about it, basing it on just what I saw in the box. It didn't really inspire me. And what we're going to watch in the background, or hopefully you have been paying attention in the background thus far, is me making it more or less as per the instructions in my typical fashion. And I will kind of brush over as I'm brush painting. Anyway, I'll kind of brush over the pros and cons and what I came across towards the end of the video. Standard sort of format for me. There'll be a little bit of a history, not about the entire Spitfire, come on, we haven't got all day. And then I'll sort of review the kit and my build of it from there. Just to quickly summarise at the start, however, this kit put up no resistance whatsoever. It was a joy to build, right from the very beginning, with only a couple of instances of the plastic feed being kind of in the way on some parts. It is otherwise very well engineered and maybe not as up to standard as brand new Airfix kits, but just wait for this end result. It is worth it, honestly. You probably would have seen it in the thumbnail, but yes, trust me, yeah, this is a good one. But now we're going to have a little look into why I consider this to be not your typical Spitfire. The idea behind putting a Rolls-Royce Griffon engine in a Spitfire airframe dates back to as early as 1939. It seemed a logical choice to improve the low-altitude performance of the Spitfire. However, early Marks suffered from poor high-altitude performance, and as such, was still very much a compromise. The Mark 14 was a much improved aircraft which had decent performance both high and low altitudes, but it was still very much a bodge job of sticking a large engine in an airframe not suitable for it. And the Mark 21 rectified this with a new, redesigned fuselage, tail, and wing, making it essentially a new aircraft with the Spitfire's name. The Mark 22 was a further development, essentially the same thing, with a bubble canopy and some slight other minor differences like electricals and things like that. Incidentally, this is very, very close to the end of the Spitfire development, which is the Mark 24, with some Mark 24s being converted from Mark 22s. The Marks 21, 22 and 24 suffered from two main weaknesses. Firstly, their performance was quite far removed from Spitfires like the Mark 5 or 9, for example, and yes, they were very, very fast, but there's always going to be some sort of a compromise, and in this case, their manoeuvrability did suffer. And secondly, not really their fault, it is time. The Mark 22 was far too late to do anything during the Second World War, and post-war, there was not a need for a large number of Griffon engine Spitfires. Equipping only auxiliary squadrons in places like Syria or Egypt, the Mark 22s did not last long and were superseded by the Mark 24. The last being withdrawn from the RAF in 1955, and none of them accumulated much more than a handful of flying hours. So technically impressive rather than operationally impressive, I thought it would be an interesting addition to my collection, especially considering that I have a handful of Spitfires, including, but not limited to, Mark 1s, 5s, 9s, and a 14 somewhere. I think we've actually got a couple of 14 somewhere. I don't know. And this kit is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed every aspect of building this. It fit together beautifully. You see that I have chosen option B, which is an overall high-speed silver design. So this was primed with a rattle can in bright white and was then airbrushed with a Hataka silver over the top. I wanted to get rid of a lot of that metallic sheen. It has to be somewhat metallic, but don't forget, high-speed silver is not the same as polished aluminium. It is just a paint. It is a lacquer over the airframe, and as such you don't get the same difference between panels, and honestly I find it such a uninteresting and uninspiring colour. I've mentioned this before in another video, probably for the Tempest, but high-speed silver is like, it's budget silver. I mean, yeah, it's silver, but it's not shiny or anything, it's just dull. Anyway, I just went on another high-speed silver rank, so anyone playing the generic Captain Rant drinking game now has to finish their bottle. Anyway, I think this effect worked really, really well, and definitely for high-speed silver I will be undercoating in a bright white primer. The red, of course, as you saw, was brush painted, not airbrushed. This kit has changed the way that I view airbrushing. I was expecting that I would only do it sort of as and when for bigger projects, things like that, but honestly, this just looks right. It's a smooth paint finish, it's a lovely kit, it fits the detail very, very nicely. I thoroughly recommend this Spitfire. I'm tempted to do another one, but I'm put off by the fact that realistically, what are we going to do? Camouflage? Another high-speed silver? Meh, it's a little bit boring. I love Spitfires, and it's still a little bit boring. But Airfix have done a fantastic job. As I said, I was wrong. I thought that because this kit was a decade old and hadn't been re-released since 2012, that maybe it was an indication that, yeah, it's not as good, it's not up there. Honestly, didn't need to worry. And it just highlights that you can be wrong when opening that box and setting yourself an expectation of, oh, it's not good for the following reasons. Sometimes, quite frankly, that can be utter rubbish. So before I wrap it up and you get to watch it go round and round in slow circles and just show off how beautiful it looks, I'm staring at this model now and just going, ooh, yeah, I did a good job. The only extra details I did after the painting were a coat of Vallejo matte varnish, just with a teeny drop of gloss in there. I was going to say a teeny drop of satin, but no, teeny drop of gloss to give it a semi-matte sheen. Again, it's got to look dull, but not so dull. And there are some exhaust streaks as well, which were brushed on with some Humbrol weathering powder. The only thing to really look out for on this kit, from my experience, were the cannons. I glued them in, quite, as you saw, quite close to the end of the build. I painted it before they were stuck in. It's just a stick in a hole. I mean, it's a cannon, it's obviously a stick in a hole. But the way that it is made is very much just a bit fiddly, a bit awkward. I tend to break things off when I'm painting, therefore I tend to stick them on. Anyway, look, the Spitfire has started revolving, the music is picking up. I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and otherwise obey the algorithm. I will see you in another video, hopefully, or maybe even on my Twitch channel, where you get to watch me build this and make silly suggestions like, oh, why don't you do option A? And I go, well, I've already cut all the holes for option B, so I'm ignoring you. That was a bad example, but you get the idea. Thank you again. Goodbye.